Well, we're used to symmetrical houses, and this is a bit of a challenging house. We wonder why it's not symmetrical. And a lack of symmetry relates to the importance of the plan behind. So the way the house is arranged externally actually hints at what's inside. It's a 17th century house, and it's important because it's a complete 17th century house. The plan is absolutely complete, and the characteristic detail, early 17th century detail, is complete as well. So what we're looking for is a particular kind of convex moulding called an ovolo moulding. If we find that, we know we're in the first half of the 17th century. As soon as we come to the doorway into the house, we actually find our first example of an ovolo moulding, a section of a circle, kind of quarter round. And that introduces us to the dominant 17th century moulding which is found throughout the house. We're in the principal living room of the house, the hall. It hasn't yet contracted into a hallway. It's a room designed to impress, and what impresses you immediately you come in is the large fireplace and the plasterwork over the open fireplace. And around the fireplace is more of this ovolo moulding, so we know the whole thing is early 17th century. Well, we've turned left into the parlour, and well, we find one of the best features in the house, this plaster overmantel, which tells us several things. One, it tells us expensive work, it tells us it's a high status house. The decoration is called strap work, this kind of geometrical line work, but of course it gives us the date, 1626, and that, you know, that just fits in with all the architectural detail. And if we were an educated 17th century gentleman or gentlewoman, we'd be able to read the coat of arms just straight off.
This shield is Robert Wynne and Catherine Wynne, and it's the only shield which has the emblems of both families. On the left are the three Englishmen's heads and the ermines on a chevron, which are part of the Winds of Voylus, and on the right are the three boars' heads, which are Catherine's family from Melai, Llanfair TH, the date 1626, when we presume they were married and moved into the house.
This is the largest room in the house, the kitchen, with a really capacious fireplace. We're in the middle of restoration work here. We have to understand that you know, walls were hardly ever bare, coarse stonework. They were always covered in plaster. The lime plaster is decayed here and it's being replaced by an authentic lime mix. It's important to have the authentic wall covering. It helps the whole house breathe and keep dry. Lots of detail here, but I particularly like the door. It's a contemporary door, massive door, but still with its door furniture, the hinges and the door knocker. And this door knocker is so unusual. It's got a horned steer or bull's head at the top of the knocker, and it really is a joy to use. We said we were privileged if you went into the parlour downstairs, but if you were really privileged, you come into this chamber, and this is the great chamber, the most elaborate chamber in the house, and this is signalled by the elaborate fireplace. Yeah. It's an early 17th century tour de force. Again, the date, 1628, but this time 2 years earlier, 2 years later than the parlour, and so we can see the progressive decoration of the house. I think. Again, the centrepiece of the fireplace over mantel is the coat of arms, which tells you about the ancestry of the people here, and which people could read at a glance. And the coat of arms is flanked by two figures, peace and war. It's so unusual for a great chamber to survive with its principal decoration intact. It was known this was an important house, but we didn't know quite how important it was until Ned and Sophie started uncovering it. It's important because its plan is virtually intact. and its detail is virtually intact. But it was in a way a building at risk. You've got to look after these buildings, and so with the techniques the Natural Building Centre are using, they're using absolutely appropriate building materials to conserve this house. You've got to work with the house, you've got to work with the plan of the house, but also the materials of the house. And Ned and Sophie are doing both.